Many self-employed estate agents want to scale their business from being a one-person operation through to having a team in place. Today, I'm joined by Tom Constable, who, after a hugely successful start to his business, is now looking to do just that. So, Tom, why are you looking to expand the headcount in your business? Why not just stay as a one-person band?
Interesting question. I think it's partly the business and in me. I can't sit still and not think about how can I progress the business further. But equally, it's about I've got to the point now where the numbers I'm generating, if I start trying to overcomplicate it and trying to do deal with too many clients, too many transactions, and I'm going to start tarnishing the service I can give to the customer. So I started thinking about this back end of last year and started thinking, well, how can I offer the same level of service I'm offering at the moment, but scale up to doing higher number of units?
Yep. So what sort of numbers did you get to before you thought to yourself, okay, this is sort of my, with keeping the service as high as I want to keep it, this is sort of my rev limiter. What sort of numbers they look like?
I probably peaked at about 18 to 20 clients. I say clients, I mean, that's probably 18 to 20, 10 of which are in your pipeline, 10 of which are currently live listings that you're trying to manage. Obviously, two sides to any transaction, isn't there? There's the finding a buyer and managing the marketing, and then there's the progressing the sale thereafter.
Yeah, quite. And was there anything particular that happened you thought to yourself, actually, I need to expand out now? Or is it just something you kind of thought that when you first launched your business, that after year two, for example, you thought this would be something you'd look into?
I didn't really set a deadline or a time scale on it. It's just as I've spoken to lots of people that run their own businesses, be that in property or be that in completely different fields. Lots of people sort of talk to me about hitting a bit of a wall, thinking there's only so much you can do as a one man or one woman resource. So you can outsource various different parts of the agency process. But for me, it was a case of, well, actually, again, how do I look at kind of the model that I've built, the success that I've built, and help scale that? So I suppose it was midway through year two for me that I started thinking, okay, I'm getting a steady flow of leads coming in, I'm getting good income coming in. How do I progress this?
Yeah. And so lots of the clients that I work with, they sort of when they first start, they just want leads into their business, properties coming on and kind of, it's a numbers game sort of thing. And then over the coming 3, 6 months, 12 months, whatever it may be, we start to refine, refine, refine. And then when you get to the level you think to yourself, okay, I'm kind of optimized as much as I possibly can do. Now I'll look at bringing staff on board. So what were the sort of stages you took to optimize your business before you brought staff on board so that you were as effective as you possibly could be before you looked to expand?
It's all about processes, isn't it? So once you've got processes in place that mean you can kind of meet every stage of that customer's journey in as slick and as formal a fashion as you can do, from there, for me, it was a case of thinking, okay, well, I've got a business generation model that works. I've got a customer relationship model that works. I've got a managing the client's expectations. Once you've got that model works, and then it's a case really of looking from there and thinking, again, how do I scale this? So it's about getting processes in place for you as an individual that work, and again, get the response from the customer, be that buyer or be that seller, and then thinking again, am I happy at this level, or do I want to kind of expand and move the business forward?
And also, you mentioned processes there. I know we've historically spoken sort of offline about processes in your business, etc. How does that look? Is that sort of in your head, and you kind of think this is Tom's way of doing it because I've always done it this way, and I just know it, or do you actually have it written down, or do you have a spreadsheet? How does that actually look in practicality?
In my head would be a very typical estate agent's way of putting things, wouldn't it? But I suppose for me, I get a lot to start on the very simple steps. It's a prospecting plan, isn't it? So without a steady flow of valuations, without a steady flow of instructions, without a steady flow of sales, you can't move the business forward. So year one and year two were all about building a business, setting a prospecting plan to think I've got to get out there week in, week out. I've got to start looking for new clients. So yeah, that very much time blocking in my diary. So spending a certain amount of every week building a social media presence, building a local board presence, building a accounting plan. So looking at stock that's on with other agents, and about getting out into the community. So prospecting is part one. And then for me, once I've won a bit of business, it's a case of what do I do with that bit of business again? How do I self-promote off the back of that business? How do I promote that property? And again, how do I find a buyer from there? And then kind of third process is once you've got a buyer, again, it's that going from sale agreed through to completion, handing the keys to your new buyer. So yeah, I've used a mixture of kind of diary management, a mixture of the ideas that come into my head when I'm driving my car or walking my dog. And then I've used a kind of a few other things that have kind of come into place in terms of spreadsheets, in terms of formats and stuff like that.
So how important do you think it is having those in sort of black and white effectively? Because as you mentioned earlier, I'm sure lots of estate agents go, yeah, I know my process. I just think, I've sold a property and a penny drops in my head and I do this next sort of thing. How important do you reckon it is having it in your business in black and white that this is stage one, this is stage 20?
I think it's really important because I think it's all about accountability, isn't it? Again, the amount of agents I talk to in my network or outside of my network, agents are intelligent people. They've got lots of ideas going around, but unless it's bullet pointed in front of you to say, this is what I do after I've won an instruction, this is how I self promote, this is how I make the most of this sale. For me, I'm very much, if there's a process in front of me and I can literally tick it off on a tick box exercise, I can stick to a plan and I can start seeing results from it. If I get all of these ideas and there's no, as I said, tick box exercise or there's no format to follow, I find it quite tricky. So yeah, I think it's really important to have a structure in place that you can follow every time you try and win a bit of business, every time you've won a bit of business, and every time you sold a bit of business about how do you scale up.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the mindset that I've always looked at is always look at your business as if you're looking to franchise it in the future. Whether you are or not looking to franchise is almost irrelevant. You need to have a business that is sort of scalable and you can repeat time and time again, whether you were there or not. So obviously that is things like processes and systems. And yes, it is some of the boring stuff in the background, where if and when you do look to scale the business, that makes your life so much easier.
Absolutely, and I'm sure we'll come on to it later. But when you start bringing staff on board, you can just say to them, "This is the process. Follow this process, and it will work. You can't fail to make a success from it." But if that process is not written down somewhere, or again verbalized somewhere, then it's just a made up process, isn't it? It's not really a process. So, yeah, to be able to sort of say, rinse and repeat, this is what works. You go off and do it yourself. I think it's really important to have it written down in some form of format that's easily usable.
Yeah, brilliant. So let's talk about staff. So I hear you've got two people with you now and you've got another two people lined up.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's progressed a bit quicker than I expected. So I had lots of conversations back end of last year with people within the Agency UK network about how do I scale up, and I set myself what I thought was a fairly reasonable target of two extra members of staff by the end of 2024. And here I am at the end of Q2 with two already on board and two more signed partnership agreements ready to go. So real mix of backgrounds. Some have got industry experience, others haven't. They've all got sales experience. So yeah, the two that I've got on board thus far, one was via just a direct approach via LinkedIn. One was via a kind of mutual connection with a conveyancer that I know. So not come without its challenges, but again, I'm looking at not at short-term fixes, but kind of long-term goals. How can I help them help me?
I think you kind of took my next question out of my mouth, so we'll expand on that slightly more if that's okay. So how do you find these people? Because lots of people probably listen to this in and say, yeah, I'd love to expand my team and I'd love to have an extra one, two, three people, etc. But I can't find anyone that's any good. So you mentioned they're looking on LinkedIn, for example, then. So what did you do in that situation?
One of the biggest challenges I had when I'd looked about expanding a team was I'm not from this area originally. Most of my agency career has been done down in Somerset. I now live on the outskirts of Bristol. So and the agency career I've done in Bristol has been an area land and new homes role. So therefore the guys and girls in branches, I don't really know any of them. So the biggest kind of thing was for me is I know I want to expand a team, but how do I get in front of the right caliber of person? A lot of that just comes to speaking to people. So again, pretty much anyone I dealt with, be that a buyer, be that a seller, be that a business connection, I was just asking the question, do you know any good agents? Have you had any good experiences with agents that you'd want to work with if you were thinking about expanding your team? So that was one route. The LinkedIn stuff, again, I've always looked at LinkedIn and felt it's a business to business platform. I don't really think it's a good business consumer platform. But again, I suppose I look at it now and thinking I am a business. I'm looking to continue to grow a business. So I've started having to be a little bit more active on LinkedIn. I've started having to like, share, comment, post, all the things you should be doing on any sort of social media. And then it's been about direct mail. So direct mail, no different to direct mail going through a homeowner's door, really. It's a case of looking at, broadly speaking, estate agents in Bristol, and then just friend requesting or connection requesting them and direct mailing them and just saying, look, I'm a successful self-employed agent in the area. I'm looking to grow a team of high caliber other self-employed agents. Our business model is all about low volume, good marketing, and then agents earning the money they deserve to earn if they work hard. If you're interested, I'd love to have a coffee or a chat. And I think it's a numbers game. Look, if I send out 100 of those direct mail messages, do I expect to get 100 responses? Absolutely not. Do I expect to get 2 or 3 people that might say, yeah, I'm interested enough to have a coffee or a pint? And then again, from there, if I get 2 or 3 people that want a coffee for a pint, I might get one of those. I think they're a good fit. And I know this model is not for everybody, but for the right agents with the right mindset, there's so much more flexibility. There's so much more control over your business. And again, there's decent money to be earned in it.
Yeah. I was chatting to a self-employed estate agent at a rival company, I'm afraid to say, Tom, a little while ago, and he was looking to expand his team. And I said to him, look, you want to do as much video content and as much sort of cool stuff on your social media as you possibly can do to show how you are different from their current employer and what life would be like working with yourself. And as if by magic, about 2 weeks after that conversation, people were messaging him saying, if you've got any vacancies free, I'd love to come and work for you. So,
And I think,
you know,
yeah, sorry to interrupt there. I think that's something that as a group, the agency, we've been really conscious of is not just, again, it's like you post all over Facebook or Instagram about free valuation requests as an agent. That's quite boring, isn't it? Like every agent's doing that. Whereas again, I've always tried from a business perspective to post useful content. And as you said, lots of nice photos, lots of nice success stories, lots of good client testimonials. And people kind of naturally get attracted to that. No different from a recruitment and an employment perspective. I don't have time to be a full-time recruitment expert, but again, I have got time to post 2 or 3 days a week. Some stuff that I think people might be inspired by, people might be interested in. And actually, you kind of alluded to the fact I've got 2 more coming on board. Joe, who's joining me down in Somerset, he was exactly that. He's a colleague that I worked with 5 or 6 years ago, went out of industry altogether, and then just direct messaged me on LinkedIn and said that I've been following your journey over the last 3 years. I really like the look of what you're doing. I love the marketing you put out there. I love some of the kind of slightly more challenging conversations you have with people. Some of the stuff that's a bit out there, but again, I want to know a little bit more. Can I book in a coffee with you to have a bit of a chat? And again, I've got that benefit of the business to business background, and I know that a lot of these things are not short-term quick fixes. It's about long-term relationship building. So there are other agents out there that I've met for a coffee this year that probably won't start for another 12 or 18 months or 2 years' time. But again, if I can have that initial conversation, I can touch base with them and nurture those leads. I've no doubt that some of those people will come on board in due course.
makes perfect sense. So how did you decide with regard to what sort of employment route to go down, whether it was self-employed, fully employed, commission only? There's various splits left, right, and center.
Yeah, yeah.
How
So
do you get your head around that and which way to go?
I guess so. Look, I've been lucky enough, worked hard enough, fortunate enough, how you want to put it, to earn decent money in my first 2 years at the agency, but I've not got enough put aside to salary somebody. So for me, it was always going to be a self-employed role, and that's twofold really. It's from an initial personal cash flow perspective. I don't have a pot of money there that I can pay someone a salary, but also it's a case of I've made a success out of this because I've had to make it work because I've been completely commission based. So again, I'd want someone to come in with the right mentality that they'll earn good money if they put the hard work and the hours into it to start off with. So I've gone solely down the self-employed route. The people that I brought on board are all team members of mine, but under their own self-employed names and companies. I see myself more of a mentor than I do as a manager or say a business owner or a business leader. I'm a business owner in my own business, but I brought these guys and girls on board to think you can make the success I've made, but you've got to put the hard work and the hours in there to do it. I'm there as a buffer zone. I'm there I've been there, I've done that, I've got the t-shirt. I can give you the processes that work. So long as you put the hours in, so long as you stick to the process I'm saying, you will make a success of it. Does that answer that question?
Absolutely. So how do you ensure that your bar stays as high as it should be? Because obviously historically, and now backwards, you've had a really high customer service bar. You've done brilliant for the customers you've worked with. How do you ensure that that sort of bar stays at the same level for the new guys you're bringing on board and they kind of keep that momentum going?
I think it's twofold. Getting the right people in. For me, I'm not a bums on seats kind of model. I'm not a bums on seats kind of model when it comes to dealing with clients, me personally. So why would I be a bums on seats kind of business when it comes to recruiting? So I've met people and they haven't been the right fit for me. And I've had a lovely conversation over a coffee with an hour with them, but I've just said, I just don't think we're going to work. So I don't think we're the right kind of business partners. the people I have employed, I've met them. I've just thought, do you know what? You've just got the same mentality as I have. You're ambitious people, you're hungry people, you're people that really care about the customer. So that's been important. And then I think it's a case of once they've come on board, it's been a case of working with them to say, look, this is the set of standards I have. I need you to be setting those same sort of standards. Otherwise, it doesn't work for any of us. So again, being kind of firm and direct, but giving them a process that works and saying, stick to this process, stick to these level of standards. And something I said to all the people I brought on board, don't chase the money, give excellent customer service, and then the money and the success will come. And again, bring people on with the mindset of, I want to deliver excellent customer service and the rest is history. Bring people on with the mentality that I want to make as much money as possible. They're not the right fit for my model. Mm-hmm. And I think that's something, again, across the Agency UK network, we've been really conscious of doing as a group, and not trying to get to really high numbers for the sake of high numbers, but bringing on the right caliber of agent to support what we've grown from a scratch 3 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, this is probably one of the frustrating things I have having conversations with anybody at the Agency UK. I can't get you guys to say a bad word against each other in any way, shape, or form. Every time in any kind of podcast or interview, they're like, Agency UK is amazing, everyone's great, everyone loves each other. I'm like, surely there must be some sort of no, not everyone gets on brilliantly. So it's a true testament to yourselves, Steph, the whole team, Mark, etc. Doing a brilliant job there.
And I mean, you've been lucky enough to be involved. I say lucky enough, you've been involved with a few things with us as a group. And yeah, as I said, our ambition is always to be the best self-employed brokerage rather than the biggest. And I think that comes down to people, right? So the reason why we all talk quite highly of each other, or very highly of each other, is because we've all come from the same background. We've all got the same ambitions. And again, we're all very proud of the Trustpilot reviews and the Google reviews that we've got. And we're trying to grow a business in the right way rather than, as I said, based on volume.
Yep, that's music to my ears, music to my ears. There are many estate agents, I'm sure, listening into this. So let's talk about challenges. So you mentioned that you had a goal to have 2 people coming onto the business within 2024, and you've done that within Q1 of 2024. What were the challenges that you sort of thought would be coming and maybe you didn't see coming with bringing so many people on board with your business in such a short period of time?
Time is the biggest thing. I'm as I'm sure it is for a lot of people. I'm a reasonably organised person, but not as organised as I'd like to be. I put all of these various diary structures in my diary to block time out for me to go out prospecting, to me to continue to build my own business. And then, of course, I've suddenly got 2 members of staff on board who want my support. So that's the biggest challenge for me, is time, is making sure that I allocate enough time to support the people I brought on board and give them the support that they're expecting, they deserve, but not taking too much time out of my own business to make sure I'm continuing to manage the client's expectations and continue to build my business as well. So I've had to take a bit of a backward step over the last probably 6 weeks and just sort of say, okay, there's things that I can't do. I don't have time to go out and do as much prospecting as I'd like to. But if I can look at bigger picture goals, I think, I could spend the first 2, 3, 4 months supporting the members of staff on board I've got coming on board. They should be relatively self-sufficient in due course, which then allows me to, again, look at either expanding the team or expanding my business again.
Yep. And I think that's the worry with a lot of estate agents when they look to bring on staff on board, is they've got one plate spinning in front of them, which is their kind of core area, them being an estate agent themselves, and they start bringing in another plate, which is someone else in a different area sort of thing. And everyone's got a real sort of scared mentality. They're going to drop both plates and end up with no plates whatsoever because they've just
I don't think that's I don't think that's isolated to just estate agents either. I talking to a friend over the weekend, he's an electrician, just set himself up as self-employed, and he said to me, I don't need to work 5 days a week because I've got 2 or 3 days a week where I need to do my accounts, and I need to do my marketing, and I need to do my prospecting. And I thought, you've nailed it there. You don't need to be out valuing houses and viewings all day every day, but there are other times in the week where you need to think, I need to block that time out to support any member of staff or help them prepare for evaluation or help them think, well, what's my prospecting plan for this week? So it goes back to diary management again, and it goes back to having a process that allows you to continue supporting the clients that you've got, but then also support the team that you've now got. And for me, the long-term gain, I suppose, is I think I can get to a point where I've got enough staff working with me, not for me, but with me, that it will allow me to kind of step back the contact hours I have with a client and think, do you know what, these guys are as good, or guys and girls are as good, or if not better than I am at the day-to-day job, so I can be selective about the clients I want to deal with, and then give them more leads to help them grow their business.
It makes perfect sense. And you mentioned support there quite a few times. So how does that look? So if I started working with Tom, for example, how does that support actually look from a day-to-day, month-to-month sort of basis? What sort of support do you give you guys that are set up with you?
So the easy things, the other end of a phone call or a WhatsApp message, kind of within reason, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, they all know that if they've got something on their mind or they're not sure about something, then I'd rather they picked up the phone and had a conversation or dropped me a WhatsApp message than just buried their heads. The very first week that any of the guys and girls have joined my team and started, I've spent a half day with them just doing a bit of a prospecting plan and saying, look, these are the few things that I would be doing week in, week out from day one. Um, and I think it's also about setting a realistic expectation. You come from the high street, you've got a steady flow of leads, you're doing 5 or 6 valuations a day or a week without too much trouble. And then setting that expectation that actually when you go self-employed, your phone isn't going to ring, your inbox is going to be empty. So you've got to flip that on your head and think, well, how can I make my inbox start filling up with emails? How can I make my phone start ringing? And it's setting down with that person, having an individual prospecting plan to start thinking, let's get out in front of people. And then it's joining them. I acknowledge that starting a business is hard work. It's scary. You feel a bit lost to start off with. So I'm quite happy to spend a bit of time with all of my guys and girls actually out in the field, and whether that's knocking doors, whether that's putting comp slips together, whether that's networking or showing them the type of thing I'd want to build on social media. I think it's really important that you give them that time and support to start off with. After the first few weeks, obviously, I think it's again about just not manage them and saying what have you done this week and how many valuations or how many viewings have you got, but again, sort of sitting down with them after a month or so and just saying, talk to me about what you've been out and seeing, and talk to me about what's working, what's not, what do you need my support with. And it's more of a, as I said, more of a mentorship role there, where I've sort of said, well, again, I'd like to know what's working for you. It might help my business in terms of me continuing to grow. But equally, if there's anything you're struggling with, let's put two heads together and try and think, well, how can we kind of improve our chances of winning that business or selling that house at the next stage? And then I think it's about creating a team. I think it's about creating that team where everybody wants to kind of help each other. You talked about it a little bit before about the wider agency UK network. And for me, I look at my kind of Bristol team and think, how do I create what we've created nationally, but on a much more local level? And that does mean going for a coffee or having a breakfast together once a month, or again, being part of a WhatsApp group where we can share good practices and success stories. I want people to enjoy working with me and not just see me as a manager. Because as I said a few times before, I don't want to be a manager. I want to be there as a mentor to help people build their own businesses and make the success that I have.
I love that. It's such a better way of looking at it rather than saying I'm bringing these people on board to work for me and to make me money, is to go, actually, I want to build a team around me where we can all support each other and we
Yeah,
all do well off the back of it.
and exactly that. We can collaborate. We can all do well together. And I think that's something I'm passionate about as an individual. Is again, I didn't know everything that I know now 10 years ago when I first started in industry. I learned a lot just by being a sponge and by listening to other people that were more successful and more experienced than me. And again, that's something I try and relay to the guys and girls that have come on board now and say, look, you're all at different stages of your journey, but try and listen to what I've got to say. Try and listen to what other people that in industry are making a success have got to say, and try and integrate some of those small nuggets of gold into your own business. And yeah, you will slowly start seeing yourself build a fantastic business in your area.
Yeah, brilliant. So, given what you know now about expanding your business and sort of getting to that first pain point of having no staff, well, now two staff on board working with yourself, sort of thing, what advice would you give to any estate agent who was sort of 6 months behind you effectively and sort of sat on that fence of, shall I bring a team member on board? Shall I not bring a team member on board? What advice would you give that person?
I think definitely look at it as a long term plan, not a short term quick fix. Look, ultimately, I'm hoping that I will start earning some money from the staff that I bring on board. I've got to run a business myself, but I've got to look at it probably in the first 6 to 12 months with each of these members of staff. As I said, it's a support network. It's nurturing their business to help them start growing. I think there's an acknowledgement of time. And again, I've talked about time on a number of occasions throughout this call, but I think for me, that's probably the one thing that I didn't expect and didn't think, okay, it's going to be quite time consuming helping these people to start off with or supporting these people. I've fairly quickly kind of acknowledged that if I want to support them and I want to help them grow and help them grow their confidence with their self-employed role, that I'm going to have to accept perhaps giving them a few leads. And that's a strange mentality, thinking, you know what, I'm giving someone three, four, £5,000 of my own money by the time I sold that house. But then I look at that and think, okay, if I give them one or two clients, or give them one or two valuation leads, or I give them one or two instructions and one or two sales, bigger picture is that they're building confidence. They're beginning to learn the processes that I put into place. They're beginning to learn the standards that I want. I think you can think 6, 12, 18 months time, that can start helping all of us benefit. So yeah, I think it's be aware of the time it takes, be aware of the support you'll need to give, and look at it as a long-term plan rather than a short-term quick fix. I'm busy, I need bums on seats.
Yeah. No, I love that. I love the sort of investment mentality that yes, you might be giving away a lead, a market appraisal, an instruction today sort of thing. But actually, if you look at those figures with regard to estate agents that list properties in their first 1, 2, 3, 4 months, they're far more likely to survive than the ones that don't list property for the first 3, 4, 5 months. So, you might be losing one in the short term, but ultimately in the long term, I'm sure you're gaining that and droves back on top of it.
Exactly that. And I think that I'm not, I don't set targets necessarily myself. I know what I want to try and achieve this year from from an income perspective, but I think, yeah, that I'll naturally get a steady flow of leads because I'm 3 years established now. Whereas someone starting out in their first week in their first month, I said before, their phone's not going to ring, their email or inbox is going to be empty. So what can I do to support them? Then yeah, give them a few confidence boosts, give them a few leads to start off with, help them get some momentum, and then think that will repay me, as I said, in 6 months' time, 12 months' time, 18 months' time. I think too many agents are really short-sighted, and they want instant, quick wins. Be that from a cash flow perspective, be that from I want to announce that I've sold 3 properties in my first month perspective. We're in an industry that's full of egos, full of success stories. What a lot of people don't talk about is the hard work and the hours that go into beginning to build a business from scratch.
Yeah. No, I couldn't agree more. And I think that's a really good place to wrap things up today. Tom, thank you. That's been absolutely brilliant. Thank you for your insight into the topics. And
No worries
obviously,
at
I
all.
look forward to meeting the 2 new team members. I've met obviously 1 or 2 already. So best luck
Yes,
for the future with them.
sounds great. Perfect. Cheers,
Thank you for
Chris.
your time, Tom. Really
All the
appreciate
best.
it.
Bye bye.